Hello, this is going to be a quick unboxing video for Star Trek Fleet Captains. I'd seen lots of people comment on BGG about serious component problems as far as breakage, missing and bent components, all sorts of issues regarding not just the quality of the components, but that the components themselves had been damaged during assembly or had been misassembled, pieces being on backwards or reversed. Which is obviously very problematic for a game which retails at an MSRP of approaching $100. I picked this up for $65 at Miniature Market, so not quite $100, but is the component quality worth $65? So let's find out. So this is a game for 2 to 4 players. It comes in a very hefty sized box. It's not as big as a Fantasy Flight Coffin box, but it's still quite large. And then this indicates that we would have 24 highly detailed, molded in color miniature starships, 12 for the Federation, 12 for the Klingons, 24 ship information cards, 50 galaxy location tiles, 200 command cards, 100 for each side, 50 encounter cards, and 76 mission cards. So let's see how we do with the piece lottery regarding how these pieces will be put together. Okay, we've got the rule books, and looks like starting cards and various pieces in a plastic bag. We have a foam insert, that's nice. And we have all of our ships. And we have cards. And we have a poly bag of tokens, a couple cards, the shrink wrap of the encounter hexes. People have said that these are really flimsy and damage easily. We'll see. We've got a shrink Federation ship deck. We've got a bunch of cards saying it's the Federation command deck in shrink. But it looks like also on the back the Klingon command cards are in there as well. A encounter deck. A mission deck, also in shrink. And as you can see, all the ships. So let's see how they are assembled. So here's just a quick close-up of some of the main components in Star Trek Fleet Captains, the board game. Let's start with the original series Enterprise. Every ship has that clear flight stand on it. And then the click style, where you can turn. You get the different numbers. This one's actually a little bit stiff. Here's the Reliant. The Excelsior. Here we have the USS Defiant from Deep Space Nine. This actually brings up one of the main criticisms of the board game in terms of the miniatures, is that the pieces are not even vaguely to scale. So that here we have the Enterprise D, or in this case the Venture, but it's this Galaxy class starship. Which is supposed to be much, much bigger than the Defiant. But here's the Defiant, and it's very, very close in size, but the Defiant is supposed to be a small scout ship. But of course, otherwise then the Defiant would be so tiny you couldn't see any real detail on it, so I understand why they decided to go with the ships not even close to scale. Here's the Enterprise for the last Next Generation movies. And for some Klingon ships, you've got I'm not sure if this is the Star Trek the Motion Picture or the original series era Klingon ships, but here you go. Bird of Prey. there are slight light colored rough spots at several places on these models where the individual piece, because again these are assembled in many cases from multiple plastic pieces that were then glued by the workers, but you can see where there's a couple rough spots from where the piece was cut off the sprue. And then we've got, I think this is similar to the model Klingon bird of prey that was shown in the Star Trek 3 and 4, but again, it's fairly well detailed for a model this size. And my copy seems to be in quite good condition. There are a few, again, places where the sprues were cut off, but anyone who's serious enough to paint these can sand those off. Then, also with the game, you get a lot of cards. The cards are all quite flimsy cardstock. They're very thin, but they do have a linen finish, as you can see, and they're so then maybe they'll hold up a little bit better than their thickness would attest, because they are very flexible. But maybe that will help keep them from creasing. Which would be nice. And again, you're not spending a lot of time shuffling these cards, so it's not like it's Dominion, so hopefully this will be enough. You might not need to sleeve them, but you probably will. Though this linen finish will help them avoid sticking together, which should be nice. Another main game component are the hexes. The hex tiles, which you'll be forming the board out of and then putting out an array and then flipping over during play. They have the same linen finish, but and they are also, these seem to be a little stiffer than the cards, but they're also pretty thin. People have said that I imagine, especially with these, since they're constantly being flipped over and slid around the table, that these edges will probably fray. I don't know of really a good way to prevent this. I suppose you could laminate the tiles, but that seems like a lot of work. Maybe just by using a play mat or something that would reduce the edge damage to the tiles. Have to be really, really careful. I don't think these cards would stand up very well to any kind of liquid at all, so it's a good idea to be really sure that not only are you not spilling drinks on the table, but you're not leaving any kind of condensation or anything, because they're not, the edges are seem like they'd be bare cardboard that absorb pretty well, and they're very, very thin. But I know that if they try to include tiles, that really would have increased the cost of the game, and the game is expensive enough as it is. The one component decision I'm not sure I get are these dice. In a game that retails for over $100, even though the street price is often much lower than that, the fact that they included these two very, very tiny little dice for a game of this size is kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. I think larger dice would have been better, but maybe they were just really, really trying to wring every last penny to keep it to keep the price at 100 and not have to go over. And these dice were one of the ways they managed to keep the price of the game under $100. Also included with the game is a giant bag of counters. Mine seem to all be punched pretty well. Some people have complained that theirs were punched poorly from the factory, similar to the complaints of broken and then misassembled or poorly glued ships. The individual counters vary in size, and they have pictures on them. Again, you've got the exact same linen finish as the rest of the components, the cardboard components, and you have a lot of counters. Yeah, all in all, it seems like the components seem to be in good shape. There's not any broken pieces. this tray comes out, so you can take the pieces out. It might be a little bit easier to get them out if you can flex this a little bit, but that's really nice. And I'm not seeing what's under here. Heard some people say they had pieces taped underneath the box, but I'm not actually seeing anything. Looks like I had a, looks like this is a well-assembled, well-put-together copy of Star Trek Fleet Captains. So, I mean, obviously, a lot of people have had serious problems with the assembly. I mean, looking like the pieces had been just broken and hastily glued together. And that doesn't even apply those in shipment, that people had reported that obviously there was somebody at the factory or had either assembled them wrong or the pieces had broken and then someone at Wizkids or one of their contractors had tried to horribly reassemble things and cause more problems than it's worth, because it's obviously it's harder to re-glue something after it's already been broken than glued back together wrong and then you have to break it again. But I've also heard that Wizkids has been fairly nice about the replacements, but again, this is not speaking from personal experience. So anyway, here is Fleet Captains. It seems to be, all the pieces seem to be in order, and so what's in the, see what's in the manuals. We've got a rule book, full color, glossy. It's pretty big. It's weighing in at 31 pages and doesn't have an index. It's got a little bit of a turn summary on the back, but it's nothing extensive. We got a, I think this is either where it goes or they're trying to actually make it look like some kind of silhouette recognition sheet, but I think it's actually just a packing, I think it's a packing instructions to say where the different ships go.